No, they didn't. Oh, my gracious.
Yep.
How about that?
With the second pick in the 2011 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Von Miller, linebacker, Texas A&M.
He's the greatest ever, huh?
And then I just wanted
When you got all the advantages, it's easy.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Aggie War Pod. The voice you're hearing right now is me, Jay Arnold, and I'm joined once again by Will Stone as we go through spring football. Just a short amount of time left before we dive into the podcast. I want to remind you once again that we are proud to be partnered with Home Field. For 15% off your first purchase, use promo code WHOOP at checkout, WHOOP. I've got this great Good Bull shirt on that's a product of Home Field for the video watchers. For the audio listeners, you're probably not going to see that. It's great podcasting, isn't it, Will?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Thanks for being back on. Man,
Absolutely.
A lot has happened in the past couple of weeks. We've got baseball getting their first series win. We've got a new basketball coach. And of course, we have spring football, which we're going to talk about first. So let's dive into the football aspect of this. We had some guys that we thought were going to be out for the entirety of spring, return from injury, which is always a good thing just to get some more reps out on the field. Tyreek Chappelle, I think, is the name I'm most excited about seeing back out there, but Amari Daniels, Scooby Williams, and Jamar Bill-Goins as well. What's your biggest takeaway from having those guys back out there on the field?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they all came back on the same day, and I think it's a fantastic thing. Seemed like they weren't just doing like jumping jacks on like off to the side, like they were actually in the drills, going through, and maybe not like like they didn't have any non-contact like type jersey you're on or anything or something like that, but like obviously we couldn't see the whole practice, so we don't know if they're like like if like good on good, if they're getting held out, just kind of ease back into things or something like that. But yeah, I think it's huge. Like, especially Chappelle, when you're starting nickel to start the year last year, goes down for the season very, very early. And you kind of had like it was up and down at that spot. Like you had like obviously BJ Mays was terrific against LSU, pretty good in coverage for most of the year. Jaden Hill, great blitzer, great in run support, and like, but it never felt like it was very consistent from game to game. So I think you get a guy like Chappelle, who I didn't think would be back until August, and then like, what does it even look like then? Is he able to get ramped up quick enough? From rehab and all that stuff. So I think it's huge to get him back now and start working. Start getting that process of him ramping back up. It's huge because I think him and Jordan Shaw, the transfer from Washington, could be a very, very formidable duo for you in nickel if they both get some playing time and like dime packages, things like that. But yeah, I think it's great. I mean, Amari obviously like he had a great year last year. I think Scooby, it's big for him. He had a couple different things going on, sounded like, and probably just needed the rest, to be honest. So looks like he got that, and he's feeling good enough to be out there. So I think those two guys are very, very key for how this defense can perform in the fall.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Tyreek Chappelle, I mean, was a guy that we really expected a lot of big things and was just lost so early in the season. And Will, like you mentioned, it's not like these guys were off to the side. Back in the day, when I was at A&M, we called that section Muscle Beach. When you were
Nice.
on rehab duty, getting back from injury. So those guys weren't on Muscle Beach. They were actually participating in the section of practice that we saw. As far as injuries during spring, I don't think we've had anything significant to talk about. I think maybe Terry Bussey's dealing with a ding on the hamstring, but nothing major that I've seen. So that's
Well,
always a good sign.
yeah, I think Bussey's the only guy that we've seen not be out there maybe the last handful of practices. Um, and I think it's significant that we had a scrimmage, I think on Monday, and nothing significant came out of that. So I think that like those scrimmages historically that's when you kind of have some unfortunate things that happen. I think Ruben was hurt in one last year, Ruben Owens. Very, very fortunate to get through something like that and not have anything drastic happen that would keep someone from, from being ready in August.
Yeah, and that's just part of it, right? Like the more contact you have, the more likely you are to have some
Yeah.
type of injury, that's just an unavoidable part of a physical game. But again, very very good sign to have them get through that scrimmage without any major dings. We're talking about one guy that we didn't talk about a lot, or at least I didn't talk about a lot going into the season along the defensive line is Albert Regis. And I think we've seen a lot of good stuff from him out of this spring. I mean, again, this is reading between the lines with what coaches have said at press conferences and what little information we have from the practices. But it feels like he's really stepped into a leadership role there on the interior of the defensive line. And it's kind of a spot that needed a little bit of an elder statesman. Uh, I think we've just overlooked Regis. I think he was a key part of this defensive front last year. But to me, I'm excited to see a guy in this position group get talked about as a leader. Well, what's your biggest takeaway from just like what we've heard about Albert Regis through this spring practice session?
Yeah, I think Regis he's such a guy that I'm such a big fan of. Like every interview you hear him in, like just a very mature, wise beyond his years, and like just a really fun guy to listen to with the way he approaches things, and his mentality, but also like his play on the field. He like I don't think he was a draft risk, but you watch him play, and that's certainly a guy that you can see getting drafted at the end of at this time next year. I think I said this on a separate podcast, but he led the country in batted passes from a defensive lineman. He had 8 in 13 games, and there was guys at Texas and Ohio State that played 16 games, and they were kind of like right there behind him with like 5 or 6 batted passes. We just had 8 on the whole season, so he definitely that's a testament to his coaching and his ability to take that and apply it to his game. And I think he's a big part of what the defense has been. I think he's a huge piece of what it can be this year. Obviously, a bigger body in there to really hold up well at the point of attack. And I think as more of a true one technique, I think he should thrive this season. I think it was like he played a lot last year, like him and Shamar Turner. Obviously, Hicks got in there as well, and I think we've talked about Hicks quite a bit in the progress he's made from a physical standpoint. But with Regis, I think you make a good point about the leader in that room, because I felt like his last 2 seasons, I think McKinley Jackson was kind of that guy on the interior defensive line, and that room performed really really well when they had that kind of leadership. So a guy like Albert, taking David Hicks and Tyler Onyedem, especially these younger guys, Dalen Evans and then the 3 true freshmen, taking those guys under his wing and kind of showing them how it's done, leading by example, and and vocally as well. I think he's a very underrated part of the team. And I'm glad you gave us time on this podcast to give him a shout out and talk about him for a bit, because he definitely deserves it.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of circle back to what you talked about with the passes batted. That's not by luck, right? Like you are
Yeah,
taught in practice, when the quarterback's getting ready to get rid of the ball, get your hands up. And some of it is instinctual for sure, but you're also trained to see the eye, see what he's doing with his hands,
yeah,
and really be able to time that. Because you want to get it up at just the right moment so that he's not able to adjust his throw for when you're getting your hands up. Again, that's just a really small detail, but can lead to some really big plays. I mean, you get a pass deflected the right way and it leads to an interception. That's something that I don't think is talked about a lot when it comes to defensive line play, but can make a big difference in the games. And we're sticking with the defensive line for this next part. Will, I'm going to let you kind of lead us off here because I have some things to say about this. This is not as good news with a certain
yeah.
mantra that was repeated. The CBO, we're not going to say the words, but this was a big story coming out of the press conferences this week. Will, what's on your mind on this?
Yeah, so I think the whole thing's very unfortunate. I think I don't think that DJ Hicks has been in interviews that much. Maybe wasn't
Probably
prepped or
won't be
wasn't probably
for a
won't be
while.
anymore. Probably may have had to run some gassers or do some extra conditioning work after what happened. But basically, if you're not familiar, and like I'm not going to say what he said on here, but I I don't even know how it got brought up. Or I mean, maybe someone asked him like, "What is the mantra?" And he said CBO, which means choke, and then a profane word in a plural form, and then the word out. So choke, profanities out. Um, but he didn't want to say that word, So I feel bad because like he didn't want to curse and say that word to the media, but his alternative was 10 times worse.
Yeah.
And he said women instead, which like just football like football players get a bad rep anyway, um, for that kind of thing. And like I want to be clear, like that's probably not like that's definitely not DJ Hicks at all. Like he's not some kind of like, abuser or something like that. But I think he just panicked and didn't know what to say. And he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna say the clean version of this word." And that's what came out. And it was just it's incredibly unfortunate from really every standpoint. You could tell how upset and really furious Coach Elko was when it got brought up to him. But yeah, I think like we kind of joked like, yeah, we need to get Jay Arnold in there to give these guys some media coaching and be like, hey, like at the very least, don't say this.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, I know when I came through the program, uh, this was a saying that was around. I don't
Right.
think it's an uncommon thing along the defensive line just because of the nature of play. And we were also, while I was coming up, given a little bit of press conference training. But it's hard in the moment. I mean, you got the mics in front of you. There's some things that maybe you're not used to your first time. You get a little bit nervous. I can speak to that myself. My couple of times talking to the media, either dinner in the midweek press conferences or after the game against SMU, right? Like you're kind of like trying not to say anything that's going to get you in trouble. Uh, but yeah, I mean, part of it's just comfort. One thing I'd like to see more of from a PR training aspect is maybe some like role playing. That's something that we didn't do when I was there. That maybe would just be a good exercise. And obviously, it's the same thing as practicing on the field versus playing in a game, right? You never know how you're gonna react once the lights are on. But I think that could serve to kind of curb some of these issues with guys maybe saying some things that they shouldn't. And
Yeah,
at the same time, though, in the age of NIL and branding and things, you want to bring a little bit of personality. You want to bring authenticity, and this
of
is
course.
something that is authentically said in defensive line rooms and has been for a long time. But yeah, I mean, Alabama had the let a naysayer know. Maybe we
Right.
should have
Right.
prepared a alternative for the letter B. Maybe like choke them boys out, right? Like
Yeah.
that could
Yeah.
have worked out well for the mentality for the defensive line. But again, you live and you learn. I'm sure
Yeah.
Hicks has gotten to kind of experience what happens when something goes wrong in
For
these
sure.
situations. But yeah, I think this is a scenario where maybe a little bit of role playing, maybe a little bit of and you never know what questions are going to be asked either, to be fair. Uh,
Sure.
but maybe this is a scenario where you can prep just a little bit more. And I don't want to take
Right.
anything away from the immediate thing. Like AC, who's been SID for forever, is a great dude. Love him. But yeah, I mean, it's just maybe a little role playing. Maybe that would be beneficial
Yeah. And I
in this
feel
type of scenario.
like there's been so many ways and like there's so many things to deal with as a college football head coach these days. And I think that, you know, college programs have taken strides to become more like NFL teams, like in a good way of like being more organized, more well run, that kind of thing. But I think it's pretty clear once guys get to the NFL, they're way better in interviews. Like that's obviously a focus of NFL teams, and something that happened. What happened the other day that would never happen for the Cowboys or the Chiefs or anyone like that. Like that, it's just straight up. It's not gonna ever, be in it. Like, and not that NFL guys don't say dumb stuff in their interviews, but I think there's an obvious like difference between um, like a true professional athlete and a college kid that has not been really trained on. Hey, like here's what an interview feels like, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So I think it's something that we should be able to invest in, and I feel like like you said, it wouldn't take much of an investment. Like we've already got plenty of good media folks around the program, so just takes a little more effort and probably will happen to some extent after this kind of debacle.
Yeah, and let's not forget these are kids in their late teens, early 20s.
Exactly. Yeah.
So a little grace is always goes a long way too. With that being said, like you also don't want to condone uh, whether it was, like obviously he didn't mean that,
Sure. Yeah.
but you also want to be cognizant of, the situations around that type of language and just be aware
For
a
sure.
little bit. So that'll probably be something that honestly is worked on. Like I feel like
Yeah.
they'll address that pretty quickly.
Yeah,
But
I do have one more quick thing on this if you don't mind.
yeah,
So I follow the NFL draft quite a bit. Like I'm hoping for the Cowboys to get one of these wide receivers that are coming out. And there was a video clip from the presumed like number one overall or like the number one receiver in the class, Tedero McMillan from Arizona. Um, and there's an interview like it's a video of him that was going viral from like 2 or 3 years ago when he was a freshman in college, and like talking about how like he doesn't like watching film, he doesn't really like football that much and that kind of thing, and it just went viral because like everyone thought it was recent. They're like, oh, like how can you say this? You're going to be drafted and like you don't even like football, you don't watch film, blah blah blah. And like guys, like this kid was probably 19 years old at most, like on this podcast he cares nothing about just just talking, like he wasn't
yeah.
giving a formal like interview, like, oh, here's what I'm all about, and it's something that like we do forget that, like these are kids, like they're not grown men and that kind of thing. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring that up as a
Yeah,
recent deal that happened.
and the level of platforms that the guys are getting now is way different than it used to be too. I
Yeah,
mean, you think back to like my time at A&M with someone there, and they had the rule about freshmen speaking to the media, right? Like freshmen didn't speak to the media. And now you have podcasts, things of that nature, where you're trying to have appearances so that these guys can build their personal brands, which will be important moving forward.
yeah,
Whether they go to the league or not, like it is important to start building your personal brand as quick as possible. If you don't believe me, just look at LinkedIn and look at all the people telling you to build your personal brand when you're not a football player.
right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a different age, and again, the training is something that will probably fix that issue moving forward.
Yeah, I would think so.
But moving on to our next topic. Obviously, if you've kept up with A&M in the news, Buzz Williams has left College Station for College Park, moving to Maryland, getting away from that poisonous snail. Some people have talked about, and A&M has a new basketball coach in Bucky McMillan. Will, what are your thoughts on Bucky McMillan coming in?
Yeah, hashtag Buckyball. Yeah, I like it, and I think I can't remember if we touched on this last week or not, but it felt like Buzz leaving was probably the best for both parties. I felt like that relationship had just really kind of soured, and but A&M owed him a huge buyout if they wanted to outright fire him, and this was like him taking the Maryland job, great for all parties. Um, and then shortly after that they took a big swing, the home run swing at Chris Beard, who's the Ole Miss head coach, formerly of Texas. Also, questionable things in his past, relevant to what we just talked about. And you know, it's kind of wild they offered him the money that they did. 7 million over 6 years. I'm pretty sure that's the money that Mike Elko makes as your head football coach. And this is still a football school. I applaud us for wanting to be better at basketball, but that's a really steep number, and that's kind of the A&M way is just like like overpay almost, and try to get the right guy. But um, if that wasn't going to work out, like if you couldn't get, Beard or the guy at Texas Tech in Grant McCasland, someone that was already very well established, then go buy a lottery ticket and go get the next Nate Oates or the next Todd Golden, who just won a championship with Florida earlier this week. So I think, and what's funny is when they're going through this process, I'm like, man, and I'm not a basketball guy. Like I heard about all these names like 2 weeks ago, but the guy at High Point, Alan Huss, um, was a
Who's
Creighton
gone back to
assistant for a long.
Creighton. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Creighton assistant for a long time, goes to High Point, has their two best years in their history, gets them to the tournament. And I'm like, oh, like why didn't they go after that guy? Because I think they were, talking to him. But comes out today, he's going back to Creighton as the head coach in waiting for when that coach retires. So that's probably good. You didn't go down that route because even if he had come here and had any success, sounds like he's probably pretty loyal to Creighton and would have ended up back there as soon as they had an opening. So I like it. I like that he is all about scoring points and big on offense. Uh, Kind of the anti Buzz Williams in that style in that sense. Just in terms of what his philosophy and the kind of guys he's going to go after and try to recruit. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's the right move. I'd much prefer getting a guy like Bucky as opposed to a guy that's already tried it in the big leagues per se, and maybe not had a ton of success and had to go on to somewhere else. So I think hey, you just got to keep firing bullets and keep buying lottery tickets until you find your guy.
Yeah. And the other piece of that is like the difference in approach, I think, is going to energize the fans a little bit. You have
Yeah,
a younger head coach too, that always helps a little bit. I'm interested to see how this turns out, but at the same time, you have to think about it like A&M is not as attractive as a basketball job as it is as a football job. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. It's not as attractive as it would be for a baseball job, right?
hmm
Not to say that A&M hasn't had moments in basketball. I mean, AC Law, like there's been some really great moments in A&M basketball, but it just doesn't quite have the history in that sport. So there's no reason not to take a swing on a guy like Bucky McMillan. I will say though, with that name, I mean, you got to think Bucky's is going to get involved in the basketball program somehow, right?
Yeah, I think he even mentioned that in his press conference. And I'm pretty sure the like Arch Applin that owns Bucky's gave like 50 million to A&M to start an entrepreneur school. So I'm sure he's got a little bit of change laying around if he really wanted to get involved and spread that Bucky's brand on in College Nation.
Yeah, but we'll see how it turns out. Excited to see just a little bit different approach offensively for A&M basketball. I love that exciting style that McMillan had at Sanford. We'll
Yeah.
see how it kind of turns out.
I think
Uh,
another thing he's big on is really engaging the fan base, especially the students. And yeah, I'll say it, like that younger generation. I'm a millennial myself, but like Gen Z, they love basketball. They love the NBA. They love college basketball. So with a coach like Bucky, who is young, wants to come in, score a lot of points, and light it up, and who's got his kind of charisma and his want to like, hey, be involved with the student body, be present and be accessible to them and kind of get people fired up. I think it's a really exciting hire. I'm really excited to see what he does. I like what he's done with his coaching staff in terms of assistants. I'm really excited to see what he can do in the portal. And I know like most of the big name guys have already committed elsewhere, but just to see like what he tries to go for and like in terms of scoring and that kind of thing. So next year's team probably won't win the SEC, but they could score a lot of points and it could be fun.
Yeah, you never know, and I'm glad that A&M basketball is taking a swing. And
Yeah.
then, and finally, we'll talk a little bit about baseball. Obviously, not a great start to the season for the Aggies. You lose your first three SEC series, but then last week, all of a sudden, the bats come alive, and A&M is able to beat the number one team in the country on the road in Knoxville and get their first SEC series win against Tennessee. Obviously, uh, no room for error moving forward in the SEC baseball season. But man, what an exciting series when it feels like getting the bats going could be a big thing. Getting Caden Sorrell back is obviously massive, a big part of that success, just his approach at the plate. But man, Will, do you have hope for Aggie baseball again?
Yeah, I think cautiously so. I think we got on here maybe in our first show and talked about how if things were going to turn around, you were going to get Kentucky, who was kind of in the same situation you were, and not like things weren't going real well for them either, and you go and you lose that series, and then you turn around and you go play the number one team in the country. And you're like, well, that'll probably do it for this team. And even the way that weekend started, getting no hit and run rolled in the Friday game, and you're like, okay, like we're actually done. Like this team is done. And I don't know if that was what they needed, if that was a spark of like, hey, actually hitting, like, hey, this is rock bottom. This is as bad as it gets. And then coming out the next day, doubleheader, winning 9-3, and then winning like what is it, like 17-6.
Yeah.
And great efforts like on the mound as well, like obviously with the bats. Man, I'm such a big fan of Caden Sorrell, and I know it may not have, won you like just a ton of games earlier in the year, and things would be way different. But it's definitely different with him back now, and his and it's unfortunate that he can't, still can't move around that well and be able to play in the outfield, because that kind of messes things up with your DH and whatnot. So, but having him in the lineup is obviously a plus. He had 3 home runs across the 2 games on Saturday. So, um, I think the way they did it was the reason I have hope. It was the bats, because the pitching has actually been fairly good, especially
Yeah.
the starting pitching. I know Prager has been a little bit touch and go here the past few weeks, and in fact, they're up 7-6 right now in the top of the seventh against South Carolina. So some more runs, gave up some runs so far, but I think if you can, I think the series this weekend is when you have to win the series. Obviously, a sweep would really set you up and kind of get you a little more favorable look at it. But you got some big ones coming up. You've got Arkansas, you've got Texas, you've got LSU. So that's I think 3 of the top 5 right there.
That's
So
the SEC
you already beat.
gauntlet.
Yeah, you already beat number one, so why not just go and do it to the rest of them? Which I think Arkansas is now number one. So, so yeah, I mean, I think there's hope, but it's very, very cautious, and I need to see I need to see more and see it this weekend.
Yeah, and like you said, 7-6 right now in that game. A&M's up. A sweep would be massive here. You talked about the starting pitching, in addition to Prager, Lampkin, and Patton, who have done pretty well. The bullpen, I think, has been a little bit shaky. But one thing I did want to highlight is a guy that's stepped up these past 2 weeks in Weston Moss, who I think has been a really key piece in A&M finding some success in the bullpen. The fielding could stand to be a little bit better, but again, if the bats get going, this is a lineup with the talent to be a threat to anybody in the league. So we'll keep on keeping an eye on that, as it were.
Yeah. And baseball's so psychological. Like maybe that was the spark they needed to be like, oh, like we're actually like we are good at this. Like we still have the talent that we know we have. And that kind of thing. Like it's such a mental and psychological game. But yeah, it's all TBD. Like
Yeah.
like that was great what they did. We can celebrate that in the moment. Now let's move on and let's see what else we can do.
Yeah, but so we'll keep an eye on that South Carolina series this weekend. But Will, that wraps it up for this show. Thanks again for hopping on here. Thank you to all of our listeners out there. Once again, Aggie War Pod, a part of the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football network. We appreciate all your support. Make sure to subscribe, share, rate 5 stars. If you're wanting to sponsor an Aggie podcast with 2 Aggies on here right now, feel free to reach out, slide in the DMs as it does go down in the DMs, as the kids say. But yeah, just really, really happy to have you on again, Will, and thank you to all the listeners. You'll have a good one.
Appreciate it, Jay.